Welcome, welcome everyone to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Jeannie with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invite, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited to get to know you along with everybody else. So, if we could just start off, maybe you telling us a little bit about your story and journey that led you to what you're passionate about today.
Well, oh gosh.
I know that's a big can of worms.
Yeah, it is a big can of worms, but to make it, I guess, a little bit short, I've had a lot of things go on in my life. One of which well, let's just say I was raped at 18, which led me to go into the military. It led me to leave where I lived and go into the military, only to find out in the military that, they really didn't like really strong women. And I was being passed over for promotions. So I had to learn to use my voice then to actually go to the sergeant major or battalion commander to demand my promotion before I left Germany to come back to the United States. So I went from there, came back here, got married to somebody that I should not have ever gotten married to, which ended up being a very, very abusive, physically abusive relationship and 4 children, only to get into another relationship right after that that was, well, my needs just weren't fulfilled. We never lived together for 33 years. We never lived in the same house because I was a second wife. And so we never lived in the same house, and we had one daughter. And, although I loved him dearly and I really wanted to help him, and that's where the holistic part of it came along, is I had converted to Islam, and my children began to get to the point to where they really didn't know me and they didn't like what they were seeing. I became that mother that was no longer fun because I couldn't wear shorts, I couldn't go swimming, I couldn't do so many things. And at one point, I would say about 14 years ago, I looked at myself and I was like, who the hell are you? Where is that fun-loving, outgoing teenager that I used to know? What happened to her? Where did she go? What happened to her? Where did she get lost? And when I realized that I couldn't change anybody but myself. So I started really taking those deep dives into who I am and what is my purpose. And those were my questions all of my life, that what is my purpose here? Who am I? What am I meant to do? And all of those questions, and being an absentee single mom for a long time, taking care of my own kids, I said, I don't want to do this as a grandmother. I want to be the best damn grandmother that out there, and I want to be present for all of my grandchildren. So I quit work and I started just taking care of my grandkids, but I also started working on myself. And it just went from, I didn't like the body that I was in, so I really tried to do whatever I could to become that healthy, active person that I've always been. And so I started doing holistic health and started getting into yoga and then doing meditation, and then finally got into Ayurveda, which is the science of life. And spent 6 years studying Ayurveda and finally graduated and said, you know what? My biggest thing is I want to help women find their voice, because so many women throughout the years that I've seen that just didn't have a voice. They just didn't have the ability. They were suppressed because they were afraid to talk. They were afraid to speak because they didn't want their husbands to get mad, or they didn't want to be an enigma to to their community because they spoke. And I was the one that was known as the the one that spoke her mind. So yeah, so that's kind of what led me to do what I'm doing. I just wanted to help people get into better health, which I helped my husband get into better health, through Ayurveda, through holistic health, from diabetes to high blood pressure to high cholesterol to heart disease, all of these things that we worked on in the 33 years that we were married. And yeah, I was just always doing for everybody else and forgot me. And I realized that, hey, I'm important too. And I finally had to put up some boundaries and say, this is what I need to do. And I had to say, goodbye to that marriage because not that I didn't love him, it was just I felt like I had to do this on my own. I have to seek out how I need to find who I really am and what my purpose is. And I had to do that alone. And so I stepped out of it.
That's pretty amazing. But I'm kind of curious if we could go back. How do you go from being outspoken in the military to marrying somebody who's Islamic? How does that
Well,
happen?
so in the military, I was very outspoken. And then I got married. And like I said, it was a very abusive relationship where I was told what a piece of shit I am, excuse my French, but I was told what a bad person I am, that nobody's going to want me. And it just kind of silenced me in that matter. Although when the physical abuse was going on, I wasn't silent. I fought back. I just didn't have any place to go. And that's the thing for so many women that are in abusive relationships is they don't know where to go. They don't know what's going to keep them safe or what he's going to do next or whatever until he almost killed me. Is when I finally just said enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. And I thought staying was because of the kids. And so I stayed. And that was the wrong thing to do. But he really silenced my inner voice because I started to call myself all kinds of bad names.
Yeah,
Through a 10-year relationship in this abusive marriage, I started saying that I'm no good, I'm this, I'm that. And he just really kind of, you know, gave me that affirmation of yes, you are no good. This is all you are, and nobody's ever going to want you. And although I still spoke out, but I didn't speak out for myself.
right.
So I kind of lost speaking up for me, but yet I still had a voice for everybody else.
So then how did that, so you finally got out of that. So how did you meet your second husband?
Well, he's the one that actually got me out of that marriage. He happened to be a boss, and I had no idea he was married, but he's seen what I was going through. And he said, I would take you and all of your kids. And which he did. But I soon found out after we started seeing each other that he was married and I was pregnant.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
We ended up having a daughter together and, I stayed and I just thought of him as my, knight in shining armor. He got me out of a relationship that was really leading me towards, I, I don't think I would probably be here today had I stayed in that relationship.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, I was just curious about that. That's, because but it makes sense. I mean, hearing your story and how it was the transition,
yeah.
only to find out that you were in another situation. But
Yes,
I
where I
hope it
wanted
wasn't.
more out of the relationship, but he wasn't prepared nor willing to give me what I was looking for because he already had a relationship. He was already married, and I wanted more in the relationship. Like I wanted him to spend half of his time with her and half of his time with me. However, in the 33 years that we were married, he never lived with me. So it made me very strong, very independent. And whenever I would bring up issues, it was like he was out of there and he wouldn't come back until he knew I was okay and I was over it. So, um, yeah, we never really kind of resolved any of those problems that we had because he was really never emotionally available to do it.
I guess, yeah, it was just two different expectations. It sounds like, he cared about you, so he wanted to help you, but yet he wasn't prepared or able to give you a traditional relationship that I guess you were thinking it was going to be.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, I loved him as a person. I thought that he was a really great person, and I really every day it was like, oh, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. Things are going to change. Things are going to change. And over the years it got a little better, but things never changed as far as the situation.
Right.
I still lived by myself. I still did most of my things by myself. And he said, I'm giving you all that I can. If that's not enough, I'm sorry. And, eventually it just wasn't enough. Eventually I said, you know what? You're worth so much more than this. You deserve so much more. And that's when I had the guts to leave. But that was after, going to Peru and doing plant medicine and really taking these deep dives inside myself that I realized that I am worth it. I am not all those things that I told myself I was. Yeah.
It's beautiful, but yeah, so it's interesting too because it wasn't just an emotional healing, it was also because I know Ayurvedic is is more than just a living medicine. I mean,
Yes.
it's so much more. Do you mind telling a little bit for the people who don't know where Ayurvedic medicine is, or the Ayurvedic way of life?
Well, the Ayurveda is a 5,000-year-old Indian system. However, I don't really believe that it's just an Indian system. I think it's just, you know, every system is about the same. If you're talking about any indigenous systems, they're about the same as Ayurveda. It's just given a different name because due to the language and due to, the area that you're in. But Ayurveda is the science of life. It actually translates into the science of life, which is incorporated in yoga, in the connection between your body and your breath, which also goes into the mind. And it's that living system that within the mind is the body, within the body is the mind. If your body is not healthy, then your mind also cannot be healthy. Or if your mind is not healthy, your body is also not can be healthy. But when you have a healthy body, healthy mind, then you have more connection. And so Ayurveda incorporates all three, the body, the mind, and the soul within yoga, within pranayama, which is breath work, within mantra, within taking care of yourself as food is medicine or food can be poison, within taking Ayurvedic herbs that can heal the body and heal the mind. So it's just a matter of incorporating it all, and it's all one thing under um, what we call Ayurveda, the Vedic system way of life, which I believe is more than 5,000 years old. I think it's way more older than that. But if you look at any indigenous teachings, they're all about the same. And I
Well,
think that's,
they all come across to me like it's living in harmony.
yes, and that's what I was going to say. That's
Yeah.
what we need to go back to because the indigenous people knew the plants, they knew the animals. There was reciprocity with, taking an animal's life and thanking it for giving its life for our sustainability or a plant or, because there's spirit and soul in everything. It's not just in the human life, everything has a spirit and a soul. And, I think that's one thing that we really lack the knowledge of is that, or really appreciate the fact that everything has soul and spirit to it. Everything is put on this earth that has a vibration that has the feelings and emotions of protecting its young or protecting its a plant, a tree will retract its roots in order for its saplings to sprout up. An animal will protect its young to the best of their abilities. So do we. I mean, it's a circle of life. It's all living in reciprocity and living in harmony with the rhythm of life. And that's what Ayurveda is. It's living through the seasons. It's your life is a seasonal thing, We are living in a spring season as we're born, where we're growing and breathing in that seed of life, that new part of us. And then we go through our 20s and 30s and 40s in the summer of really getting things done, and that hot period of time where we develop our anger and we develop our own belief systems. And then going into the winter time after our age 50, where we're starting to dry out because now our body is getting ready and prepared to leave the world. So it's kind of that season of stillness, that season of just being just like wintertime is, so it's living that rhythm of life.
That's beautiful. What a wonderful explanation. I love that. So, what is it you do today?
Today, I have an Ayurvedic practice and I am a spiritual life alchemist, I'd like to say, but I like to help people really go within themselves to find the true essence of who they are. And the reason why I say that is because I believe that we're all put on this earth to come back to who we truly are, which is that fractal of the divine being. And once we're born, I think we lose the true essence of our knowledge of who we are. And we have to go through this life experience to rediscover it all back again.
It's
And
like
so
a
that's
full
kind of
circle.
kind of like what I like to help people do, and I would say I'd like to help women, find their voice, and for women to really discover who they are and what they want out of life, because sometimes we get so silenced in the life that we're living that we forget who we truly are and what our purpose is here. It's not just to be a mom, it's not just to be a wife, because those are labels. It's not who we are. And that's one thing that so many of us lack in knowing is that these are just masks. They're just labels that we can take off, peel off like an onion, and really find who that person is really inside of us. What is that deep, deep knowing that we have? And I
It's
think
true. Yeah.
mine is knowing that I've been a healer throughout many lives, and that's what I really love to do. I love to connect. I like to be outside and, connect with the plants and the trees and the animals. But I like to connect with people too and help them find their vitality and their true essence and their energy to actually live life with purpose instead of just existing and floating through each and every day, forgetting
Exactly.
what life is all supposed to be about. And that's where I came in. I was just like, I feel like I'm just existing in this life, not really living the life. Because if you're not happy, if you're not doing the things that you love, if you're not, really grasping and being in happiness and joy every day, then you're existing in life. You're not living.
Yeah, and I've heard Abraham say it, who is channeled by Esther Hicks, that life was meant to be fun. You
Yes.
know, it wasn't all this heaviness that we've created as human beings.
Yes, and it's so simple that it's so simple, it's ridiculous, but we don't we're a being of wanting to make things so difficult and so hard that simplicity sounds too easy.
Yes, yes. We
We're
could have a
so
whole side
programmed.
conversation about this.
Yes. I mean, we're so programmed, right? From the
Yeah,
time that we're
exactly.
born, that you got to go to school to get good grades, so you can go to college to get good grades, so you can graduate from college and get this job that you freaking hate, so you can buy all of these things that don't mean nothing in your life, but it's just because you want to make sure everybody can see that you have made something of your life, and then you die. That's not living life, and that's such an unhealthy way of teaching our kids and of growing. It's it should be living life to the fullest. Yes, getting good grades. Yes, maybe going to college, but if that's not what you want, and sorry if I'm offending anybody, but I have one daughter that never went to college, and she said, "Mom, I'm so sorry that I disappointed you." I said, "You didn't disappoint me. You're living life on your own terms and doing the things that you love to do. Maybe it's a little harder for you sometimes, but you're doing things on your own terms. That's living life. It's
Yeah, it's not
otherwise,
one size fits all.
no, otherwise it's just existing in this illusion that we call life because everything is a perception of our own mind. So
I love
that's
this. I so love this. Jean, for people who are resonating with you and your message, how can they get in touch with you?
well, I don't have a website as of yet, but I do have a group that's called Radiant Soul Journeys, and that's kind of like where I'm trying to get my message out with people is through Radiant Soul Journeys. I do have a company that's called Sacred Gardens. And the reason why I named it that is because I love collecting herbs and I like making my own medicine. And so I wanted something to that effect of being able to create my own herbs and my own medications and doing it all naturally. So I named it Sacred Gardens LLC. So eventually I'll get up a YouTube. I'm on Instagram as J Chill's Journey. Um, yeah, and Jeannie Chilson as on Facebook. I have my own Facebook page, my own Instagram, and I do have a YouTube. I just haven't used it. So,
Well, we'll be sure to let the audience know that we're going to put these links in the comments below so that you can reach out and connect with Jeannie today. And I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your journey and your story. It sounds like it's been quite an interesting one. Um,
it has. It has. And the one thing I just want to say is everything is how you take it. And I've had a lot of things in my life happen to me, but I've always got back up with more compassion and more love and more joy than what I fell down in, and I've learned to forgive because holding resentment and holding anger and hatred only affects me.
right.
and nobody else, nobody else. Yeah, the people around me it may affect, but it really affects my health and my mental well-being. So I've learned to just let it all go. And of course, I'm a human being, so sometimes it comes out. Sometimes I still have those feelings of am I worthy? Am I good enough? All of those things. But once I can say no, I got to look at the clear water that we're born in, and not the murky water that we live in.
Right. That's beautiful. Well, is that your parting words of wisdom, or do you have something else you want to share before we go?
No, I think that would be my parting words of wisdom is, let go of those things that don't serve you anymore because it's only hurting you, not anybody else, just yourself.
Well, thank you, Jean, so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing more of you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I loved being here.